Oh, this so.
Hey, Walter, before we get started, you sent out an update.
I did.
Are there any on there that we didn't see before?
No,
No?
there's
Okay.
just some additional information relative to some valuation adjustments for data versus the hardship.
Okay.
They're all on the list before them.
I guess I'll open that one up just in case. Okay, so if you're saying the spreadsheet is related to the hardship cases, then I think we should move forward.
We should discuss, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, as chair of the Northwood Select Board, due to COVID-19 and in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, we're authorized to meet electronically. There's no physical location. However, in accordance with the emergency order, we're providing public access. That's via Zoom. You can call into the Zoom and use your phone for that or the video. We provided public notice of this information in the posting. It's also on our website. The mechanism to alert us if there's any issues with your access would be to call 603-340-5711 or email Paul at Allard, I'll spell it P-A-L-L-A-R-D at town.northwood.nh.us. If we do have trouble with the video access, we will adjourn the meeting. All the votes will be taken by roll call. I'm going to start with the roll call for attendance. Beth.
Here.
Thank you. And Pam.
Present.
Thank you. And again, I'm Hal Kreider. Since this is a work session, there's no public input on this meeting, so we're going to get right down to business. The only item on the agenda is approval of abatements. And as we have in the past, we're going to do this via a consent agenda. The consent agenda will be read off by Walter. And I just want to let the folks that are listening in, there was over 500 pages of data for us to review. This is one of the reasons why we go with this method. We want to make sure that the select board has a chance to review the items in detail before the meeting. That way we don't have to basically pass out data during the meeting and try to digest it at that point. So as in the past with the other ones, the plan is to approve the ones that Walter lists off on the consent agenda to be approved per the assessor's recommendation. So before he reads the list, I'd like to, Pam, would you like to lead us in the pledge? Perhaps, is that what the flag is indicating?
I believe we should.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Pam, why don't you lead us in the pledge? Thank you for reminding me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for reminding me. Without a list, I tend to forget things. I guess that's a sign of my age. So anyway, At this point, I'm going to ask if anybody would like to take any of the items on the consent agenda off the consent agenda and consider them separately. Anybody? Pam? Pam, go ahead.
Just a question. There is one property owner that has 5 pieces listed. 4 of the 5 were going to be in one direction. 1 of the 5 was going to be in another direction.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, as we read off the consent agenda, how we will handle when there are multiple properties.
Walter, do you want to address that?
Well, if you're going to be approving them in accordance with the assessor's recommendation, then it really wouldn't matter, because if he recommended approving 4 and denying 1, you're still going to approve according to his recommendation.
And he did list them out individually.
Okay.
Do you
Right,
understand
and
what
I
he's
just
saying?
wanted to be sure. Yeah, I wanted to be sure that it was not a blanket approval or denial based on name as opposed to tax map listing. So I just wanted to make sure of that.
But yes, no, it's a good point, because as in the past, I think you'll remember that when we read down through the list and reviewed them in the past, there were some where the assessor said, yes, I agree with your request for an abatement. And there were some where he said, no, I don't think the data supports this. And in very similar manner, we went down through and just basically approved those based on his recommendations. So his recommendations have been, some favorable, some denials. So I think Walter is probably correct in saying we'd be consistent if we did that. So I don't have any problem, but if you want to discuss that further, we can. What's that?
Yeah, no, it was just 498 pages.
Yeah.
And I kind of color coded my list. I annotated page numbers, and and I got reading through it, and it's like, okay, whoa, this property owner, some this, some that, and I just wanted to know how we were handling that. So that's okay. We're going by the assessor's recommendation, and not just a blanket approval by name. So we'll be voting by property number.
Well, I would say we are voting by assessor's assessment record, meaning
of the tax map.
Meaning that in each case, the assessor has gone through them, and some, like you say, he's approved and some he's denied. Whatever it says on his piece of paper is what we're voting to do.
Right. So I'm just being technical, because if we're voting by name, that could be a glitch if the person has multiple properties.
In what sense?
It really only comes down to one property that is multiple lots,
right?
With different determinations. So if we were to vote by name, it might be a technicality.
Well, we're voting by name for example, for that individual property. We're saying we're voting for how the assessor did each of the assessment evaluations on however many properties a person has. So if that person, so we're not saying we're approving an abatement, we're saying we're approving the assessor's recommendation, which is different. The assessor's recommendation varies up and down.
Right.
And that's what I'm going to ask for a motion for, is a motion to approve based on the assessor's recommendation.
And I do understand that, but I also understand that the minutes, if they reflect by name, then it does not necessarily show which parcel. So that's my only question, is whether the minutes will reflect it's hard to go into details, but by parcel.
The minutes will
Because
include.
somebody reviewing the minutes could say, you all did this.
No,
When in fact, we did this.
No, the record is including what we got sent in our packs. That's part of the record.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody,
I'll have faith in that.
I'm sorry, say that again. You're breaking up.
I'll believe that. I'm just worried about the record as stands or as stated, whether or not it could, if somebody read the minutes, how they would interpret the minutes.
They would interpret them by going to the list of assessors' recommendations and see what they are.
Okay. All right.
And what the assessor's recommendation is on file. So if anybody has a question, I'll just make it very clear again. We are not voting by name to give somebody an abatement. We are voting by name to go with the assessor's recommendation in terms of what to do with their request for an abatement.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm very clear on it, you're very clear on it, but I want to make sure everybody else is very clear on it.
Well, I think we've had on some of the other ones multiple properties too.
Right.
This one is maybe a little bit unusual in the sense that
It is.
there's
It is.
one way and four the other way. But again, the backup documentation is what the assessor's recommendation is, and that's all readily available and on file.
All right.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
all right, because this discussion would be in the minutes too, so that would provide clarity.
Yeah, if somebody wants to go back and look. Walter, did you want to add something? I saw you had your hand up.
Basically the same thing, just the motion will be clear that it's based on the recommendation of the assessor
Right,
and not a blanket approval.
right.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Walter, I'm going to ask you to read off the list of property owners. And when we're done with the list, then I'm going to ask, does anybody want to take any of them off the consent agenda?
You already did that. That's okay.
I'm sorry?
You already did that.
I already asked? Oh, okay.
Okay, so we have Christopher Anderson, Edward and Joyce Andrews, Christine Averill, Richard Barrows, Gary and Kim Bates for properties number 212-38 and 212-39. Vincent and Joanne Bates for lots 206-40 and 212-37. John and Kim Blood, Richard Baco for lots number 216-72, 216-73, 216-74-1, and 216-74-2. Rhoda Irrevocable Trust, Arnold and Linda Burke, Robert and Cindy Charest, Deborah and Timothy Currier, Jonathan Detrude, Donkey Realty LLC, Sharon and Stephen Estabrook, David Fielders, Daniel Fletcher, Matthew and Jennifer Fry, Michael and Sarah Galla, Mitch and Beverly Gardner, Todd Graham, James Grippo, Lawrence and Sherry Guptill, Harding Metals for lots 234-75, 234-76, 234-78, 234-79, and 234-80. James and Linda Hopkins, Bethany and Timothy Johnson, Timothy and Susan Keefe, Sharon Kolakowski, lots 125-23 and 125-24, Richard LePage, James and Lisa Lentz, Kathleen and Mark Lord, Michael and Sheila Lord, James Lutz, Ron McElman, Jeffrey Marsh and Karen Maynard, Scott and Jane Martin, Donald McCucci, New Hampshire Electric Co-op Incorporated, Kelly and Michael Nugent, Kenneth Plum, Plum Family Cottages LLC, William and Pamela Raphael, William and Sophia Roach, Donald and Carol Seaman, Sandra Siemens and George Chapman, Cheryl Seavey, Julie Smith and Robert Goldthwait Jr., Christian and Charity Stevens, Deborah Stewart, Raymond Stone, Deborah Walk and William McClure, and Randy and Bonnie Wood. I apologize for any names that I may have goofed on.
I think you did better than I would have. Okay. So at this point, I'm looking for a recommendation to approve the assessor's ruling on all these properties that Walter listed. And again, that could be an approval of the abatement request, it could be a denial, or it could just be a hold flat. But whatever it is, we're going with what the assessor recommended on all of these. Go ahead, Pam.
I'll make the motion that we go with the assessor's determination on these abatements as written.
Great, thank you. And we have a second by Beth. Is there any discussion? If not, roll call vote. Beth, how do you vote?
Yes.
Pam, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Hal also votes yes. Okay, at this point, Walter, I guess, do we need to read off the names, or can we keep the names silent in terms of why we're going into non-public?
We can list the names, the ones that are recommended for non-public. We're just not disclosing the information relative to their request for abatement.
Okay, thank you. Why don't you read them all?
Laurel Azadorian, Bruce Carlson, Elaine McGrandahan, Kenneth Monk, Linda Nielsen, and Young Family Revocable Trust.
Okay, so those are the abatements that we're going to review in non-public. What I'd like now is a motion to go into non-public. Walter, is it C?
Yes.
So it'd be 91A part C. Do I have a motion to go into non-public? Thank you.
Moved.
And a second, please. Thank you. Roll call vote. Beth?
Yes.
And Pam?
Yes.
And Hal is yes. Okay, so Walter, how are we going to handle this? Are you going to